Hello traders, it's still Nagwan here, founder of Master of Markets, Illustrious Conference and the Traders Open Day. So welcome to today's video series, which is on practical Vedanta and trading and on the topic of how do you overcome fear. Okay, right, so now the first thing what we're going to visit in that is, what is fear? Now that's the first question. Now, fear, if you really break it down as I put it over here, F.E.A.R is actually false expectations appearing real. And how many times, traders, does that is so true when actually we think that a particular trader is going to do this or going to do that, and that false expectations of us, basically of the trade doing this and doing that, actually creates that fear in us and we do things that we are not meant to. And one more critical thing I really want you to understand is that fear can only exist in the past or the future. It can never exist in the now, okay? So that actually brings us to the next point over here. When does fear arise? As I've already mentioned, it can only happen in the past, it can only happen from the past or in the future. So let's take a few examples. I mean, some of you have already been trading, it is very familiar to you. What I'm going to show it to you right now is one of the things that can happen is fear can come into you when you want to enter a trade after a string of losses, is it not? Now you see, the string of losses, where does it exist? It exists in the past, traders, is it not? So you see, the past can cripple you and bring about fear inside your mind, okay? Now another thing that can happen also when you are in the trade, a future projection can also create fear where you think that the trade is going to stop you out of the trade and then going to reverse and then going to move more higher towards your profit potential. And what do you do because of that? Because of the fear that is going to do that, you then move your stop to move further down than where you're supposed to get out in the market, okay? So then let's say then if it doesn't do that and if it goes down further, you actually lose even more. That builds even your fear even more and adds on to the losses. So that's the second thing what I've analyzed as well, because I've done all these mistakes as well as a trader, you see. And also over the 20,000 people that we have coached and mentored, we've also heard that from them as well. And the final thing is what usually traders do because of this fear thing of the past or the future. They start to take out their profits quite early. And why does that happen? Because of all the string of losses from before, they really want to take some money now, and also they think that the fear that it's not going to go up further in the future. So all these projections of the past crippling you to put a trade on, or the future of what's going to happen to that trade, stopping you or reversing, or going to come fall further down, taking your profits too early, all that basically just cripples you and makes you finally ask yourself, after all those losses or after all those profits that you're cutting out earlier, make you ask the final question, which is, oh man, is my strategy really working, right? And I'm sure some of you have gone through this, alright, or traders, I mean, I've been through that as well. So that's what I'm telling you right now on how this fear actually comes about. When does it arise? It's only because of the past or the future. Now that we've established that, the natural question then comes out is, how? Then you will be asking too, how do we overcome this fear? Now because we have said fear can only exist in the past or in the future, then we then can conclude that the only place where it cannot exist is in the now, the present moment, okay? Now what do we do to get that in the present moment? So let me just put that to you in writing. The first thing is what we call the strategy itself. Okay, the strategy itself. You must go and look back at your strategy and ask the one most important fundamental question is, why must your strategy continue to work? This is one of the most important questions that Ray Dalio, is one of the biggest hedge fund in the entire world, $160 billion in assets, doesn't take any more money from any other investor. He continuously asks this question with his team of researchers is, why must the strategy that they are doing currently right now must continue to work? And the strategy can only continue to work, as we've explained in all our workshops, Traders Base Controls Toolbox, and all of the conferences that we talk all over the world, is that it can only continue to work if the concept is recurring and is based on people's psychology of this fear and greed, and you have to position yourself on the other side of it. So the concept that is recurring, and also your rules must be quantified so that your results can be reproducible. So go and revisit your strategy. And one more important thing as well, the 3 models that we talk about in terms of your stats review as well. That's very critical in terms of the strategy. You must know your stats. This will help you bring your mind to the present moment and have strength of the validity of your strategy. Okay. If you want more explanation of that, please visit our blog videos and also our Trade Like a Master video series or Trader Starter Pack if you're a beginner as well. There's plenty and tons of material you need to revisit if you don't know how to build your strategy really strong, you can sustain through time. So that's one way. Build your strength of your mind through the strategy validity. The second thing is what everything that you entail towards really, is the state of your mind. Okay? So the state of your mind. So even though you may have the best strategy in the world, or even if like Paul Tudor Jones or Ray Dalio gave you a strategy, sometimes traders are still not able to execute it. Now why is that? Maybe because the state of the mind has not have the conviction yet, or is not in the present moment, and it fluctuates between the past and the future, and fear cripples them. So how do we keep that state of the mind in the present moment and a high elevated level? One of the ways is through ancient word or practice which is called pranayam. Pranayam basically, translated loosely, it's just breathing, it's the life force, the breath force. Why is the breath very important on a scientific basis? When you're breathing in and you are hyperventilating, when you breathe in and you regulate your breathing, what's really happening is that your whole body is filled up with oxygen, okay? When there's oxygen, then there's cellular respiration happening, energy is created, you finally feel a sense of vibrance, and the mind gets energy to be in the present moment, okay? So that's what it means. There are different ways of learning this breathing technique. Some ancient breathing techniques are very, very powerful. Highly recommend you all to look into Art of Living. They are a very massive non-profit global organization that you can definitely take a look at. I mean, the last gathering they had was for 5 million people from 150 countries, and I was there, and I can promise you it's really, really good, and I believe that you should definitely visit them if you're thinking of learning really good essential breathing techniques that can bring your mind to the present moment. And in fact, in the new market visits, Tom Baso has talked about this as well. Not only Tom Baso, I mean, another trader has talked about it when they were in a particular trade and it was not going in their favor, and he had to take deep breaths in just to revitalize himself so the mind can get in the present moment and can think more clearly. Okay, so enough said of that. And the next one, what I've said is actually I would say is the crux, it's the main element of practical Vedanta really, which is abiding in the self. Okay, abiding in the self. Now what is this self? I mean, just to give you just a very short explanation, not as to go too deep, I would say firstly, know who you are. Okay, know thyself, isn't it? It's written all over the Bible. Know thyself. Know who you are and what you're not. Okay, know who you are and who you're not. Now, what do I really mean of that? The simple thing I can give you is, for example, if you were to observe something, then you must be different from that. So for example, let me explain this. If I were to observe this marker pen, that means I must be different from that. Am I right to say that? That makes more sense, right? Because I cannot be that. If I am that itself, how can I observe it? You see? So for example, how can I see my own eyes? I can't, right? Because it's part of me. So for example, if something is here and I'm here, I can observe it. And I've got more control over it, right? Because if it's in me, maybe it's difficult because I can't find it, I can't grapple it, right? So if it's something outside, I've got more control and governance, and I can manage it more faster. Now the same thing as well in terms of your mind, even though you may say the mind is in you, but think about it. When you sit in silence, and some of you have definitely done that at some point of your time, if you sit in silence and you just close your eyes and you observe your thoughts, the critical point is observing the thoughts, right? I mean, definitely thoughts will come in like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got so many action points to do for today, or I've got to go pick up the kids, There's so many thoughts will come in, but here's the critical point. If you are listening to those thoughts, if you're observing those thoughts, once you're observing something, you must be different from that, right? So this is the critical point here. If you're observing something, that is something different from you. Then just like this marker pen, if I'm observing something, is different from me. Just like that, if I observe my thoughts inside, I'm something different from that. Now here's the critical point. Once you know that you're different from those thoughts, then immediately you know that you also have the chance and the ability and the capacity to manage those thoughts as well, to govern those thoughts, rather than the thoughts governing you, okay? And that is the point where I've just written over here, know thyself, know who you are first, right? You're something different from those thoughts. And then that gives you a higher probability of governing those thoughts, which is thought governance, right? So then you'll be able to manage those thoughts, you have the strength to also stabilize those thoughts. And in here we're talking about the main thought of fear, okay? That keeps the mind the present moment. So of course, like everything, enough practice gets you better at this particular step of stabilizing the mind in the present moment, okay? The state of your mind can be stabilized and increased by knowing thyself, by through breathing, and also by knowing your strategy validation, alright? Okay, I guess that brings us to the end of this video. I believe it's been really good, immense value for you. Digest this information, and most importantly, not just digesting and sitting down with it, put it into application, put it into practice, okay? Whatever they told you over here, reflect and put it onto practice and see the results, okay? Alright, so as we always say, till the next time, stay disciplined, follow your trading plan, and keep trading like a master.